What up, YouTube? Alaix coming back at you with another Starcraft 2 cast. On the bottom right-hand side of the map, we have our red Protoss player, Spacerandy. On the top left-hand side of the map, we have our blue Terran player, Shaynk. This is a gold versus, as of yet, unranked player. Protoss being our gold player, Shaynk being our unranked player, our unranked random player, so for the time being, Spacerandy does not know what race Shaynk is. I do assume that Shaynk is of a similar level to Gold, so just based on that matchup. So we will see how good these players are. We do have a gateway first coming from our Protoss player here. It does look like Shaynk is going to be throwing down a scout relatively early on here. Does look like the probe's trying to get in on attacking this SCV here, but forgoing that and deciding to mine the gas instead. It does look like Spacerandy really does not want Shaynk's scout in here, although it doesn't seem like he has much to hide. It is just a gateway first, so looks pretty standard to me. Shaynk deciding to go home, ultimately thinking that there's nothing of interest to see here. There is a second gateway coming down shortly after this. First gateway here, plus a pylon in the natural, against this natural choke point here. So, this tells me that Spacerandy is likely going to be going for a Nexus here relatively soon, but I could be wrong. On the Terran side of things, it does look like he's about to have a full wall. He is training up a Marine that will pop right now. We do have an orbital command on the way as well, plus a factory, so this is looking relatively standard to me as well. This wall will not be letting any sort of scout in. It does look like there's a probe on the way to check out what is happening here, and indeed, we do have a Nexus coming down for our Protoss player here. So far so standard, nothing unusual happening. Well, actually, this probe is not doing what I thought it was going to be doing. I thought it was going to be checking out this ramp here to see what's happening, and we do see that this is a reactor, so there might be some earlier pressure coming from the Terran, earlier than I thought, to be honest. We do have an SCV here as well. It looks like they're preparing to build, and we have a starport on the way as well, and an immediate Widow Mine, so I'm expecting that this might be a Widow Mine drop. And we do have the forward pylon from our probe here, so this might become a very interesting game here, folks. We do have the command center being built by Shaynk right now, so this is not necessarily a full all-in. It does look like Shaynk is planning on having some economy behind what I expect is going to be some pressure with this Widow Mine. This is a very early Widow Mine. Usually you don't really need something as aggressive as a Widow Mine for defense early on, I would say, unless you do see some sort of proxy play. But right now, it looks to be like a standard opener for Spacerandy here. He is researching Blink, so I'm wondering if this is going to be some sort of push here. And by standard opener, I mean as far as Shaynk knows. We do have a proxy gateway right here, which is not necessarily a standard move. We do have the medevac here, picking up all the units it can and boosting its way down to the enemy base. So this is going to be a Widow Mine drop, followed by a reinforcement of 4 Marines. 2 Adepts coming in to throw down some pressure. They will not be able to shade through that wall, unfortunately for them. Shade does cancel. Now Adepts, they are such a good unit early game. They will just chew through tier 1 units. They're such an interesting unit to me because in the later game, they're just not nearly as good. But early game, they are so frustrating, especially with that Shade ability. It is such a powerful ability early game, capable of throwing down some really aggressive harassment here. Alright, let's see what we have for Shaynk. Dropping the Widow Mines and the Marines. Decent reaction time by Spacerandy. Only loses 2 probes to the one Widow Mine here. This Widow Mine still has not used up his attack, so it is not on cooldown. These Stalkers are going to have to be careful. They may very well get sniped by this Widow Mine here. A shield battery would be a lot of help in defending this. Oh, these Stalkers have to be careful. One does go down, the other one almost halfway dead. These Marines back to work. And these Adepts just checking out this command center here, keeping an eye on it, making sure it doesn't land. So ultimately, it does look like both players are mining off one base right now. Most of the probes did escape to the natural here. We do have some Zealots trying to corner these Marines, but they will get picked up by the medevac. This Widow Mine taking another kill on the Protoss army here. I would like to see some Stalkers. He did research Blink, which is done. He would be able to micro those a lot more effectively than a couple Zealots without charge. Currently, these Zealots just standing around, not bothering to move out of the way of the Widow Mine. And I did not notice this, but we do have a Thor now. This is going to change the game a lot. These Adepts doing nothing but just keeping an eye on this command center here. It does look like Spacerandy is going to go for a push of his own. This might be an attempt at base trading. Unfortunately, base trading versus a Thor is not ideal when you only have 3 Stalkers that are on move command in the corner here. They will get chewed up by these Marines. This is a rough game for Protoss, and sure enough, Spacerandy throwing out the GG and leaving the game, giving the victory to our blue Terran player Shaynk here. I do like the use of this Thor. That kind of just ended the game, I want to say. Plus the move command into the Marines. Not an ideal engagement for Protoss, but either way, at this point, the main base was destroyed. This command center here for the natural did not. It hardly got hit. Just barely one damage off that tick mark here. So all in all, a very interesting game. Short one, but interesting one. Well, if you guys would like your games cast, please send me some to my email. I will have it down in the description below. I would love to cast some of your games, and if you would like, please send me a like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the next one.